excited about what everybody will be learning this evening. So, not to waste your time, I would just like to share my screen. Trust me, this is going to be a very, very, very interesting session for you all. And why do I say this? Beyond the fact that I am a digital marketing expert, I actually do a lot of work around helping brands, that's small brands, small and medium enterprises. I do a lot of consulting work, for brands here and there. And one of the things that I usually would observe are the mistakes that small businesses make. Young people like us, the mistakes we make here and there. And in the African space, there is a very big loophole that exists in the marketing and professional space, and it's the fact that in Africa, beyond Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, we do not pay a lot of attention into data. What do I mean by this? For example, we are looking at optimizing funnels with insights and data. This sounds a lot robotic. If you feel me, let me see your emoji. If you feel like, oh, this topic just be like, say, it just be somehow. But it feels like, bro, let's just learn something about how to grow your business from one to 5,000, how to make your first 5,000 from marketing. It's very, very amazing, right? To have all of those things done, to learn all of those things. But one of the things that separates us from the Western world is the fact that there is no many attention to detail, right? For example, I have a background education in engineering. Specifically, I am a chemical engineering graduate, and one of the things that we grew up as chemical engineers to learn is attention to details. It was alien to us because we had to go to factories, we had to check a number of places, but it was very alien to follow rules, right? The average African doesn't know how to follow the rules. You just feel like, oh, let's just get doing it. And the interesting thing is that if it's working, guys, you just feel like, oh, it's working. So what's the point? And I feel like that's a very big delusion, because the fact that something is working does not mean it will keep working. The fact that it worked the first time does not mean to always keep working. That is why we do not have a lot of unicorn companies from Africa, right? Most of the companies, you could do your check. Most of the companies you will find out there, they are either head by a Westerner, somebody an international. You would not find a lot of it. It's just recent times that we have this growth. We're having a lot of people paying attention to insights, we're having a lot of people paying attention to data, right? For example, when you want to do a research today, you want to do a research of how many Nigerians are actually using data, are using a particular platform, it's hard to get such kind of data, right? That's telling you that the African world is alien to the term called data and analytics. That's just on the surface. I was taking a few of my students sometimes last week, and we were doing something around. I was just showing them a few things around Google Ads and how to play around it at the best, right? Excuse me. And how to play around it at the best. And one of those challenges that we saw was that the data available for the Nigerian space is very limited, right? You would not find a lot of data around. You will not find a lot of data around the African space, unlike you would find around the Western world, which is very, very important for us as professionals, as marketing experts to pay attention to. So I would really love you to flow with me today. I feel like this is going to be a very interactive and interesting session. I am not a traditional speaker. I don't just want to present. I will share a lot of my personal experiences. I will share a lot of stories with you guys. And I feel like you're going to have a nice time. If you're looking forward to it, let me just see your emojis, and just to feel inspired about that. And just to be sure that you're following me as well. Let me just see your emojis or something. All right, great. Thank you, Aliu. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Vensoft. Thank you, Azan. All right, guys. So let's just get going today. So, of course, when you look at this slide that I'm showing you here, in 2001, I say there's Blockbuster and there's Netflix, right? So I just want to tell you guys a story. Now, if you are not a typical Gen Z, what I mean by that is that if you are not if you were not born, if you were born anything between 1997 to say 2004, 2003, 2004, right, you would know Blockbuster very, very should know, or should be familiar with Blockbuster. If you're millennial as well, you should also be familiar with Blockbuster. Blockbuster was like the what Netflix is at the moment is what Blockbuster used to be. They had about over 9K stores worldwide. They were like the dominant force in the world as at that time, right? Netflix was nowhere. Netflix was nowhere near there. Dominant force there. They were doing a lot of work. They had 9K plus stores. They were grossing 6 billion in revenue. Imagine a company grossing $6 billion in revenue in 2001. That's about 25 years ago. Imagine what $6 billion would feel like in this day, right? That's a whole lot. They had 84,000 employees in 2001. That's a whole lot. They were the dominant force in the market, right? They were doing a whole lot. Their store was like the number one store. Nobody could compete with them. They were dominating the market. They had very good marketing. Their DVDs were everywhere, every single place. And it was the day of DVDs and play-ins. So the competition in that space was limited, right? And even if you were trying to compete, did you want to actually compete with a brand like Blockbuster? They were everywhere. They were literally everywhere. You could just see their store somewhere. You could see their disc, their DVD somewhere. They were like the dominant force in that space, right? Then we now have Netflix, right? Netflix, as at 2001, they offered to sell their company. They offered to sell their company to Blockbuster for $15 million, and Blockbuster laughed at that offer. Right. For example, what actually happened was that Netflix was trying to also build something similar as of 2001, but they were not finding an headway. Of course, they were doing something good. They had the metrics, they had the numbers, they are beginning to have the customers, but they valued themselves at $50 million. And Blockbuster laughed at them because they felt like, bro, nothing could shift us from here. We are grossing $6 billion every year. So I mean, why would we want to buy your company for a whooping $50 million? And they laughed at that deal. You know what happened next? What happened next was to fast forward to 2026. As at this moment, Netflix market cap is about $280 billion, and Blockbuster is bankrupt. Blockbuster declared bankrupt in, I think it's 2010. Yeah, 2010. They were declared bankrupt in 2010. Why do you think this happened? Right? Why did this happen? And this brings us back to what we have been looking at on the subject of data and insights and analytics. Now, what actually happened was that, the way Blockbuster was building, which is typical of any traditional brand, was that he just felt like, oh, we are getting this thing right, so let's just keep doing it. Now, as of 2005, they began to have a lot. Their churn percentage increased. Now, churn percentage is just, sometimes you go to websites, maybe you buy their product or you buy their service, but you don't go back there again. Right. So that's what churn value means, or churn percentage. Their churn percentage actually increased from 2005. Now, they were not wise enough to try to flow with the rhythm, to try to observe what was going on, to try to look at their funnel and try to review it. They didn't do all of that. They didn't do that till, I think, 2006, 2007. As at that time, it was too late to do that. But what did Netflix do? They kept listening to user behavior through the data they have. And I'm going to show you guys how Netflix actually, got the market like this. For example, at the moment, there is no huge competitor of Netflix as of this moment, right? Yes, Netflix is doing very fine, and there are other brands like say YouTube, like say Moviebox, that are trying to get the whole scene. But Netflix is still the Okapata of it all. They are still there ruling the space. Why do you think it is like that? The simple reason, right, is that they listen to data, they listen to what the analytics in their funnel was saying, and they optimize it. So actually what happened was that sometimes around 2016, 2014, 2015, Netflix did an A/B test campaign. Now, this A/B test campaign was to check what kind of thumbnail helps people to click on the video, watch it, and come back to watch it. So they started with tragic movies, actually. So with tragic movies, they tested different creatives. They used the creative with a particular face. They used another creative. I know you guys know what A/B test is, right? So, I'm assuming you guys know what A/B test is. Right? So they did an A/B test, and they tested like 2 to 3 creatives. Right? Thank you, James. So they tested 2 to 3 creatives, and between those creatives, they saw the one that was working well, and they kept optimizing it. And that is what insight. That is what analytics. As analytics brings you insights, and that is how you can optimize your funnel through it. There's a mistake that CEOs, especially in Africa, make. I know this because, trust me, I have a lot of experience with in different ecosystem, right? So, and I know how the Nigerian space approach review, how they approach analytics. We don't pay so much attention to data. We don't pay so much attention to what we are saying, the insights we're having. And that brings me to the next slide. Who is the problem? Now, why did I put who into bracket we? Now this is very interesting because when I was like dating, I was trying to think about what can I do speak about, because I could just come to this webinar and I could just say a lot of things, try to inspire you, but that's not what I'm coming here to do. I just want to help you guys understand how you can pick up insights from your data, and now you can use it to optimize your funnel, right? So why did I say who is the problem? So just imagine that your brand, something is not working on in your brand. Let's say you're an employee for a company. Hey, let me not mention any company, right? So yeah, you're an employee for a company, and one of the things that your boss will likely start doing is that maybe this guy does not know his job. He's not doing well. What are you doing wrong? You're not hardworking as before again. And sometimes it's not just that. It's not just that, right? There's something that we are not paying attention to. So I feel like one of the biggest mistakes that startups, that businesses actually around Africa make, is that they blame the who, they do not observe the where. They blame the who, they do not pay attention to the where. You see, many times the problem of a business is not the problem of a person, it's the problem of a process, it's the problem of a funnel. Sometimes, the interesting thing is that you could be so good at your job, but you could have your marketing done wrong. You could have a lot of results gone AY. And this is something I've experienced as a person, and that's why I'm sharing this with you guys. All right. So there was a time that I think I ran a campaign. It was for an AI-based product in the UK, and we created this campaign. It was a full scope campaign, right? I started the whole process. I generated the leads. I was following up the leads. I had a few responses, but guess what? We could not close no clients. I know my partner was like, "What's going on, guy? What's the problem?" He was beginning to think, "Oh, I bet this guy doesn't know his job." I was like, "Bro, I did my hand of this. There should be something we are missing out." And then when we looked through our funnel, we saw that the issue was at the bottom of the funnel, the conversion space. There is no clear call to action at the point where the person enters to speak with the customer care person that closes the deal at the end of the day. Because of the nature of the product, it has to go through different processes. The person gets to the website, they book a free trial. From the free trial, they speak with the customer agents that eventually closes the deal, right? So at the end of that person, there is something wrong with how they present the call to action, and that is one of the biggest mistakes we make. So imagine what we were doing was that we were playing the blame game. We were saying, "Oh, this person is the problem," instead of paying attention to the data that we have, instead of paying attention to what we have, and actually trying to optimize our funnel based off that data. We could have gone ahead blaming a human being. It is very, very important for us to pay attention to the simple things here and there, but we must always pay attention to them. We can take a case study of this blockbuster Netflix story. It's very, very interesting, but it is how businesses die even today. Now, there's something called the AIDA model. I feel like you could have learned that at the funnel creation stage. The AIDA model is just this generic thing that you learn as a digital marketer: awareness, interest, desire, and action. That's like your customer journey. Of course, your funnel is ideally your customer journey. Now, let's just paint a scenario that Jamil Azan is trying to buy a product. It goes, let's say it's a software as a service product. He finds himself on a website, right? Let's say the name of the website is thegrowthcamp.com. Now, from thegrowthcamp.com, he sees different call to actions. He just sees, maybe he gets there, and then the product is a hundred and let's say the product is 500,000 naira, and he's asking himself, how do I justify myself to pay $5,000, and he just 500,000 rather, and he enters into that page and he leaves. But you as a digital marketer, you now see bounce rate, you see page views 5,000, bounce rate 30%. It means 30% of 5,000 people entered your website and left immediately. What is that telling you? That is already telling you something is wrong with your landing page. Or for any reason, 5,000 people entered into your website, 5,000 people entered into your DM, 5,000 people entered into your platform. You gave them, maybe it's a landing page, there's a lot of things going on there. And out of those 5,000 people, only one person actually bought your product. That is less than 1% conversion rate. That is already showing you that there's something wrong with what you're doing. For example, one of the things that you have to understand is this. If you're, let's assume that you're selling an i-ticket product, right? And i-ticket products are products that they are costly. So I don't know what costly might mean to you, but I think an i-ticket product is something between the range of 300,000 to 500 and a million upwards, right? So let's say you are trying to sell a 300,000 product or 500,000 product on your website. Now imagine that you created a one-pager that is less than 500 words, no testimonial, no proof of work, no additional details that will convince the clients that their money is worth it. Do you think you'd be, do you think, let me know in the chat box, do you think as an ideal, okay, let's think like Africans, you went to a website and the website is just a one pager, right? No proof, no testimonial, there's something, everything is just all crappy, and you get into that website, and then inside that website, something is just you didn't buy the product. Would you buy a product worth 500,000 if there is no proof that if you spend this money you will get equal value? Let me know in the comment section. Let me know in the chat box. Do you think you will want to buy a product like that? Let me just know if you would. Let me know if you would, right? Do you think you went into a website, or you want to buy a product worth 500,000 or worth 1 million plus, worth 10 million plus, but there is no guarantee, there is no proof of I can actually do this, or there's no proof. Yeah, I don't think that means says no, I won't. I don't think anybody would. Yeah, I don't think anybody would. For example, I was interviewing a digital marketing intern, and he shared, I was just giving the guy a review of, see, bro, this is, if I were an employer, I would not, I was trying to recommend the guy for a role, right? And I told him, guy, if I'm an employer, I wouldn't employ you. Why? Because look at your CV. You call yourself a digital marketer and your CV is not well aligned. The formatting is wrong. Bullet points are not well aligned. How do you think I would be able to trust that I will be able to trust a brand into your hand? And you say, you have mouth that you can help me create value, you can do all of that. How do you think I'll be able to trust you with do that? None. That aspect of your funnel is entirely wrong, right? For example, I get the privilege to speak with a lot with younger digital marketers. I get to mentor people, and this is a problem that some people were saying, a mentor of mine was saying, I've applied for 5,000, I've applied for 200 jobs, I didn't get a call back. You see, you must see a funnel as a process beyond the fact that you're building a business. Everybody has a funnel, right? I have a funnel. I have my own funnel, right? Everybody in this space has a funnel. And I told him something. I said, guy, look at your funnel. There's something wrong with it. You're a digital marketer. You learned that. Look at your funnel. There's something wrong with it. If you feel like you're not getting callbacks, there's something wrong with your CV and your portfolio. That data, okay, so look at the data. I applied for 200 jobs, but out of 200 jobs, I did not get a single reply. That is already showing you that there's something wrong at a part in your funnel. Either there's something wrong with your CV, it is wrong, it is not ATS compliant, or your contacts are not there, or your CV is not just good, or you're not just good enough for the jobs that are looking out for, right? There's something already wrong at that part of the funnel. Now look at it. Imagine you actually getting replies, but when you interview for the role, you are not getting the job. That is a funnel. Right, the top of the funnel, you apply for the job. The middle of the funnel, they review your job and they get back to you. The lower end of the funnel, you interviewed for the job but you didn't get it. There's something wrong with you, and then you are not able to communicate your value right, or there's just something wrong with your experience, or it doesn't align with what the brand is doing. Now, those data, those analytics are what will give you the insights to be able to optimize your funnel. Let's bring it back to a business. Let's say I'm trying to run a software. Let's say I'm building a product, right? And this particular product, I have a website, I have WhatsApp, I have LinkedIn, I have all my social media platforms. So at the top of my funnel, I have social media platforms, I have a website, and I have a couple of other things at the top of my funnel. At the middle of my funnel, I have, of course, proofs of work, insights, analytics, insights and data on every aspect of my funnel. Now, imagine that I have all of those data. Excuse me. Imagine I have all of those data, but I am actually having people click on a link enter my website. I am saying click-through rate, but I am not saying conversion rate. That is showing me something. So let's use email, for example. There was a time I ran an email campaign much recently, and I found all my emails. I came off all recommended for the client, and my first, guess what? My first email campaign, everything went to the spam. Like practically everything went to the spam. If you do a lot of email work, you will know that is a slap on your face as an email marketer, that all your emails went to the spam. I mean, this is not even a cold email. When you look at it, it's basically to an averagely warm audience, right? I was really worried. What's going on? I sat down with it. What was I checking? I looked at deliverability. So the first place I looked at, what is the percentage of my deliverability? And I said, okay, there was something wrong with my deliverability. My emails were not, my deliverability was showing me, my deliverability was showing me 99%, but yet I am seeing open rates 0%, click rate 0%, CVR 0%, everything was 0%. I already knew that there's something wrong with my deliverability, my placements rather. It means it's placing me in the spam zone. So what did I do? I sat down with it. I did a couple of tests at the top of the funnel, and I realized that the domain reputation was something wrong because it's a website, it's a platform with a WordPress website, and I needed to authenticate the domain is with the CNAME record. So I did the CNAME record, and guess what? This next email I'm going to send enter into the primary zone. Now imagine that I am not paying attention to the data that I have. Then it means that I would not be able to properly iterate and identify where my error is coming from. And that is the mistake you must never make as a digital marketer or as a marketer in any form. You must be able to iterate every point of your funnel, and that will help you to understand what next to do. Let's just move on because I feel like my time is flying. My time is flying already. Let's just move on. All right. So moving on to the next thing is that how do you optimize your funnels with insights from analytics? Now, of course, when you hear analytics is just a measurement, a sense of measurement, or a measurement, a metric system, right? And then analytics and measurement are just metric systems, sets of numbers and data that show you how well your campaign is performing. So for example, you run a social media campaign, maybe an ad campaign, and you add, let's say you add an impression of a view, a reach of say 1,000, say impression of 5,000, but your click-through rate is about 5%. That's quite low for the reach that you have. All right. So those metrics are what we actually learn when we are looking at analytics. Now, how do you actually develop insights from analytics? Now, the thing is that if you look at this slide that I'm showing, they would show you how to actually pull out insights from analytics. Now, trust me, if you're a business owner, if you are a startup founder, if you're a founder, if you're a business owner, or you're just a professional trying to upskill your career, I can assure you that everything we are learning here is practically applicable to you. If you could sit down, pay attention to all of these, and try to apply it as much as possible. Right. So the first thing is, I said, yes, detail your funnel. Detail your funnel. What does it mean to actually detail your funnel? Right. So the mistake a number of people make is that they do not know how to not just create a funnel, they do not know how to detail their funnel. Right. What does I am assuming that you've learned that at the last bootcamp, so I won't go back to that. Right. So I'm assuming you already know what a funnel should actually look like. You have your top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, and then the end of the funnel. Now, at the middle of the funnel, you have two ends, which is the end of the person's action and the end of your data that you have there as proof. Now, in detailing your funnel, you're going to sit down and analyze your customer journey. Your customer journey. What is the process that my clients, my customers pass through before they get to where they would buy my product or my service, right? Where would they get to? For example, I was having a conversation with a younger person, and I was telling her, I was asking her, she was saying, okay, she created a plan to reach her potential customers, and she said, okay, she was going to reach them via TikTok. And I was asking a question, all right, detail your funnel from TikTok. Where did they go to? But do you think, as a digital marketer, your clients are on TikTok? And that was where she went on mute. The first question is that many people do not know how to actually properly detail their funnel. Now, if you detail your funnel, you would be able to have a proper insight from every analytics at every stage in your funnel. For example, let's say I am a videographer. Now, you have a funnel as a videographer. What does your funnel feel like? Maybe your point of contact. Every funnel starts with a point of contact, right? So at your point of contact, let's say your point of contact is your IG, your LinkedIn, your Facebook, sometimes some of you will see posts on, I just got a job from on my LinkedIn profile. I just got a this from my LinkedIn profile. Bro, the point is that, you're asking yourself, most of you that use LinkedIn, I know that you'll be able to attest to this. You'll be asking yourself, means if I get LinkedIn profile now, DM, I know see my posts. I read everything about how to post. I did 10 posts, but out of the 10 posts, cumulatively, even all the 10 posts do not amount to 10 likes. And you begin to ask yourself several questions. What's going on here? The problem is that your point of, there's something wrong with your point of contact. So you must clearly iterate your point of contact. Where am I meeting my customers? Where am I finding my customers? The next place is what is the journey of your customers? Like, so you iterate it. If it's WhatsApp, you're meeting your customers from WhatsApp. Okay, from LinkedIn they get to WhatsApp. From WhatsApp they get to this. From this they get to that. From that they get to that. From that, that is what your funnel feels like. That is what the number one step is about. First thing is detail your funnel. See, if you do not detail your funnel, if you do not properly highlight your funnel, you would not be able to optimize your funnel at all. If you are not able to iterate, okay, this is where this happens, this is where this happens. You see, the marketing journey is a psychology journey, it's a psychological journey. So one of the things that you have to do first is to sit in your customer's head. What will happen at the top of this funnel? What, for example, in the last say 3 to 6 months, I've gotten at least say in the last 1 month, actually, I've gotten at least 3 to 6 LinkedIn DMs. Now, guess what? I've not actively posted in. I used to post very actively on LinkedIn, of course, but in the last like 3 to 4 months, I've gotten really, really busy. So posting on LinkedIn has been a challenge for me, right? So it's not like if maybe somebody saw my post, maybe somebody saw my this thing, somebody saw my that. But the point is that I know what my funnel feels like. I'm at every step. In fact, I even just de-optimize the LinkedIn account because I just feel like I need to get a few things. I want to get a few things off my plates before I push on ahead, right? So the idea is that you are able to detail every aspect of your funnel. If you detail your funnel properly, you would be able to highlight what is wrong, what is not wrong, what is right, what is not right, and what you actually need to improve, right? Very, very. If you are following me, let me just see a comment. Let me just see a comment in the. Let me see your comments in the chat box. If you're following me, if you've been learning something so far, please let me just see your comments. Let me see your responses in the chat box. All right. Thank you guys. All right, moving on. So the first thing. All right, thank you, Stephen. Thank you guys. All right. So moving on, if you look at, I said you must detail your funnel. So you must always detail your funnel. The second thing is to export relevant data at every step of the funnel. Now, what does this even mean? Forget all this grammar that you're saying. What does it mean to actually export relevant data? So at every point of your funnel, you will always find data. Yeah. What does this mean? I feel like a lot of people do not pay attention to data, right? I enter into my LinkedIn page, for example. I'm going to see what? Impressions, right? You will see impressions, and what's the next thing you will also see? You will see profile visits, right? You will see profile visits. You will see profile visits. You will see relevant data that shows you few things about your platform, right? You see relevant data that shows you things about how's this platform even performing. You see your post profile views. You see your post impressions. You will see your search appearances. Now, what is that actually showing you ideally? That is basically showing you every data or the data that is available to you. Now, it means profile view. Let's say your profile view is just 2%, 2 profile view, 2 searches. That's the data that you have. That's the analytics that you have. What insight is this giving you? Bro, not many people are viewing my website. Not many people are looking at my profile. Basic stuff, right? Let's say, for example, you have a website and you see website visit of, I used this example earlier, excuse me, a website visit of like 5K website visits. Out of those 5K website visits, you actually saw 4K people come out of that website bounce rate. You saw a bounce rate of 70%. Now, as an SEO specialist, what that actually tells me, someone like me, is that there's something wrong with my site, right? So I would have to run a site audit. I have to check for broken links. I have to check, okay, how exactly is my website performing? I'll run a quick SEO search to see what is happening on my website. But it could be something as simple as my page speed. Maybe I have to optimize my website for page speed. I have to reduce my file size on the website, right? That's what that data is showing me at that aspect of the funnel. So now imagine that I run a Google ad. I set up a Google ad. And I spent up to $200 on the Google ad. Now, at the top of the funnel, it's showing me that the clicks. I saw 5,000 clicks on my ad, right? Imagine 5,000 clicks on my ad, but I am looking at my Google Analytics. I am seeing bounce rate of 70%. The ad itself is successful, but the funnel, there's something wrong with the funnel. So what will I do? Based off the bounce rate, I would say bounce rate of 70%. I'm going to pull up my bounce rate of 70%. What is making my bounce rate this high? And I will sit down with my website. I will run a site audit. Maybe it's broken links. Maybe it's page speed and all of those things that we do in SEO, right? And I'm going to analyze all of that, pull up my data, and try to improve my website because of that. And we bring it back home to something like you run a social media campaign. Let's say I ran a Facebook ad, right? Let's say I set up a Facebook ad for messaging conversion. I want people to send a message to me, right? And at the top of the funnel, I am seeing reach 5%. I'm saying reach of say 10,000 reach, but I'm saying impression of say 20,000 impression. But messaging conversation started, I'm only seeing 5, right? That is showing me that there's something about my click, or there's something about my creative, or there's something wrong with the ad copy. Is not converting enough. It means this post is reaching people. That's the insight. The data is that I reach. I'm reaching people, but the problem is that even though I am reaching people, I am not able to convert the people that I am reaching. So what am I going to do as a wise digital marketer or as a wise marketer entirely? I would sit down with those data and those analytics that I have, and I would try to correct. So basically, see, optimization is correction. Forget optimization as a big English. Optimization is basically you correcting or improving what you have. And the only way you can improve what you have is that you are using the data that you have and you are applying that data, the insights you are able to get from that data, you are applying it into your funnel. Now, let me get a little bit very casual. Let me get a little bit casual right here, right? So I always used to say that marketing is like toasting a girl, right? I know that many of you here will be able to relate to this, right? So I believe that marketing is like toasting a girl. We are trying to woo a lady. Now, as a guy or as a gay, if it's the girl that is trying to woo the guy. Now, that stage of wooing a girl or wooing a guy is a funnel. I feel like this explanation will help you understand it the most. That process is a funnel. Now, at the top of your funnel, what are you doing? You are dressing well. You are dressing well. You are using the right makeup as the lady. You're trying to, what again do people do? For those of you who do things like that, you're trying to improve how you smell and all of those things, right? Now, imagine that you as a guy or you as a girl or a lady saying, no, I don't get a lot of people wooing me. There's something wrong with your funnel. At the top of it, maybe the guy comes close to you and bro, you're scenting, and the scent is giving garbage vibes. There's something wrong with your funnel. That is how a marketing funnel feels like. So what are you going to do? You're going to buy a better shoe, right? Do you realize that many times when you're dressed well, you are confident to walk up to people in places? What you have just done is that you have optimized your funnel for conversion. right? So you're well dressed, you're able to speak to a person. That first time impression is the same impression you have on Facebook, right? You have that impression already. Now, what you have to do now is, I want to now convert. Now, at the conversion stage, maybe you as a guy, you're trying to, you have done the first stage, you are already dressed nice, you're smelling nice and all of that. You know, if you're also like all cool and all of that, you have your bling, maybe you even have a car and all of that. The next part is now the conversion, right? You're trying to exactly now woo that lady. What do? You speak. Now imagine that you do not know how to communicate your feelings. There's something wrong at that aspect of the funnel, right? So the problem that you have there, so you're trying to communicate, but you are not able to sustain communication more than 2 minutes. So you're a 2 minutes conversation man, right? So that is already shown. That is a data. That's an analytics. Now, the insight from that analytics is that I have to improve how well I speak, right? I have to improve how well I speak. And that is how every funnel works. So the moment you improve how well you speak, you realize that from a 2 minutes conversation man, you move on to a 30 minutes conversation man, and you know, your talking stage becomes whatever stage that you want it to be. So back to business. That is how business works. See, I used to believe that if you're able to break down, business to understand it as a person, or optimize any other thing, or to understand any other thing you're doing, every funnel in your activity and your process will be properly optimized. You will know what to correct, you will know what to improve, and you would know what to do better. So let me just move on. My time is fast spent. So the next thing is analyze all data. I've spoken about that already. Analyze your data, draw out relevant insights from it. So my data is showing 30% CTR, right? 30% CTR. Out of 30% CTR, I'm only seeing 1% CVR. Why will I be having a 30% click-through rate, but I'm only having 1% of conversion rate? It means only 1% of all those 30%, maybe only 3 people out of let's say 30 people were able to buy my product. That has already shown you that there's something wrong, right? Something is wrong. Maybe the click-through rate is it's okay. People are clicking through your ad. Maybe they're entering into your DM. Maybe there's something wrong at the conversation stage, and people are not buying your product, right? Or they're not buying your service, or they're not viewing your CV. They're not entering your business to buy your product. Very, very important thing to pay attention to. And the last thing here, I said apply insights to improve every stage of the funnel, and then test it. So many people do not know how to test. You see, when I was, of course, I work as a freelancer, so of course I'm always looking out for the best opportunity out there. But so when I was actively looking out for jobs, trust me, I had about 4 to 5 CVs. Now you see all these 4 to 5 CVs, they are for different kind of jobs. Now, as of when I had a CV, of course I gotten the roles here and there, but you see, out of those 4 or 5 CVs, I got to a point where I realized that there's a particular CV that gets me interview invites. I stuck to that particular CV. That is me looking at data, looking at my analytics, and trying to optimize my funnel based off that. The last thing is keep applying what works and repeat step 1 to 5. You see, a funnel always has to improve. For example, you see in the game of SEO, for example, the game of SEO is changing to AI-based SEO. Now, one of the things I was speaking with a partner this afternoon, and one of the things I was telling him that, see, the game of SEO is really, really changing. And you know, for a brand like yours, a lot of focus is on local SEO and on AI-based searches, right? So imagine you have a funnel. Look at Blockbuster, for example. Imagine you have a funnel like Blockbuster's own, but you are not choosing to improve that funnel. That is already showing you that there's something wrong with how you think. So you must always keep improving your funnel at every stage. When you feel like something is not working, look back at your funnel, look at what is working, check the data. Based off this data, you see AI has made things very, very easy for us. You can pull up your data into a system, and based off that data, right, you would be able to know what is working. In conclusion, the context of building and marketing in Nigeria and Africa is unique. Our funnels often don't look like the textbook model. A customer might see your Instagram ad, DM you on WhatsApp, get a referral from your cousin, visit your website, abandon the form, and then call you directly to complete the purchase. Just look out for real metrics, check what's working, and alienate what's not working. Very, very important thing as I close is that you must always look at the context of your market and what you're doing. See, every funnel is based off what you're doing, and every data is showing you something. See, if you're running an awareness campaign, there's nothing that concerns you about the DMs that you get. What concerns you rather is that this particular campaign gets to reach more people. right? So that's why I always tell my people that a campaign objective determines what the funnel looks like, right? So you must always optimize based off your objective. When you have the data shows you what is working and what is not working. Those numbers, they are showing you what is working and what is not working. Optimize, think about what those data mean, apply those things to improve your funnel, and I can show you that your funnel will keep bringing you more clients and more customers till the day you stop working. Guys, I hope this helped you guys. I hope this is well put out. Thank you very much, TGC, for the privilege to speak to you guys. I hope this is really helpful. Thank you so much. To enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll pass on to Daniela. Thank you.
All right, all right. What an amazing section. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Samuel, for that amazing section. You did an incredible job, and I'm sure every single person on this call got one thing or the other for their line of marketing. Right now, I believe everybody understand how to drive insights and using analytics to drive insights from their funnel. Amazing section, and now we are on the Q&A section. Please, if you have any question, you can drop them in the chat box or raise up your hands so we can unmute you and then you can ask your question so that someone can answer the questions. Any question, guys? Awesome, very soft. Please, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you, the moderator, and
Sorry, you are kind of low. Your voice is kind of low. Can you speak up?
okay. Can you hear me now? Hello.
Yeah, that's better. That's better. Please go on.
Okay. I want to sincerely appreciate the moderator, the organizers of this wonderful workshop. Thank you very much.
Hello, you've gone low again.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Awesome.
Hello.
Great. Now.
Okay. I want to appreciate the moderator and the team behind this wonderful workshop. I want to appreciate you. My question goes like this. Currently, Ventsoft is a primary company that builds human day-to-day activity software, and our flagship product is called Artisan. I don't know if you were here earlier. I was wearing a t-shirt customized in the product. Overly, what the product is about is about artisans. It's about artisan market, just like the way you order cars from boat and in drive. So organically, we launched our app last year December, and we've not run any serious campaign till now. Not until to last one January. Okay, January. That was January, and the campaign was would I say awful kind of. Maybe we didn't hit the market.
You can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
Yes.
I think
Okay.
you're
Okay.
fine. I think you're fine.
No, I'm not far away. I'm not far away. I'm not far away. Please hold on. Let me try to restart my mouthpiece and
Okay, all right. Anyone is doing that. Do you have another person with a question? Please, if you have a question, let us know. If you are shy, or speaking. Okay, Jamil, please. You can unmute and ask your question now.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you clearly. Please go on. Thank you.
Okay, so please, my question is actually the for campaign actually. So if you are working with brands, all they tell you is we want customers, we want conversions and all. So at which point will you know maybe the campaign you actually want to run is for awareness or it's for conversion, or is it the client that's going to tell you? Because most times, I believe every client, what they actually want is, we want people to come and buy what you are selling. And I believe some might not even have the awareness, even might not even know what they are selling initially. So how do you advise that? Okay, let's start with the awareness campaign first, and before we move on to maybe sales campaign or something, or what the customer wants is what you're going to do for them. That is my question.
Yes, I got your question. All right, thank you, Jamil, for that question. I feel like that's quite wise, and I get that question a lot of times, right? So I would answer this question in two ways, briefly. One, always do what your customer wants. Two, always give recommendations to your customers. You see, the truth is that recommendations make you sound like a professional. When you're able to say, this is what I think about this, it helps you sound like this guy knows what he's doing. So most times, this is what I do when I get to speak with clients every now and then. You see, the mistakes that startups makes is trying to sell immediately when they actually try to, when they're supposed to build awareness at the early stages. You see, people buy with trust. Yes, people buy with emotions and all of that. But you know that emotions, when people just feel like, I don't think this guy can bring me something good, you know that they will not buy your product. The first thing is try to put yourself out there and let a number of people actually know you, right? So the first thing I always encourage is like, let's try to get more people to know us. If more people know us, or if we get one or two people to get to buy our product and test it and we promote it, then we can actually try to convert. For example, I once had to do some work with a car rental service business. Now, what they actually do, they rent luxury cars to people. So you know how much a luxury car would actually cost you to rent, right? So imagine that somebody is trying to rent a luxury car, and they've actually done a lot of work for many artists in Lagos states, right? So imagine that I'm trying to set up an ad for a brand like that. What would I say to them? I could say, oh, let's just let's just get customers, because the CEO is like, I just want to get customers. I sat down with the CEO and I said, you know what? We would actually get customers. I feel like we have a market. But the first thing I think we should do is imagine that somebody comes to our page, our IG page, and sees 20 followers on our IG page, or sees 100 followers on our IG page. What do you think they will feel when they need to trust us? And that was where it felt like, oh, okay. So I said, let's get more people to follow us. Let's get more people to trust us. And then maybe we could do that for like a week. If we run an engagement campaign for like a week or two. Now, this depends a lot on the budget of the customer, right? So when we run an engagement campaign for like a week or two, then we can try to run. And then I eventually convinced the client that, you know that even with engagement campaign, we could get customers. And guess what? We set up an engagement campaign for like, I think 2 weeks, a week or two. And even from that engagement campaign, they got 1 or 2 clients from it. I think about 2 clients from it. So before even the conversion, the traffic ad came in, the awareness ad already had made a customer. Why? Because we tried to reach more people. Of course, we selected the best video we had, and then it flew. It did very well, and of course, we had more customers. So of course, you could recommend. Always recommend. Please don't say, I will just do what the customer say. Always recommend. And when the customer says, oh, no, I don't think I agree with what you're saying. I want to get customers. Then you can go ahead to run a traffic campaign with them, track the data, see what is working, give a recommendation again based off that. And if you feel like the customer is hesitant on what they want to do, just keep doing it till they are fine, or till you are not fine with them. So I think that's the best thing you could do. I hope that helps you, Jamil.
Yes. That helps me. That helps me. I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Amazing, great. We have Yinka. Yinka, you can speak. We have less than 4 minutes to discuss, so take yours.
Right. Okay. I wanted to ask, is it like kind of like good to like use like a custom GPT to like pull out data from your funnel, to like use it to analyze data? Because I actually normally use it for Search Console and Google Analytics. I normally like pull out the data like in a CSV file or spreadsheet into like a custom GPT, like from like this is like on ChatGPT. So I was asking, does it really work well on using funnels, like optimizing it, using that data from the AI to like maximize output?
Okay, I want to be clear. Do you mean you get the data and you plug it into AI, or you use AI to get the data?
No, I get the data from like for my analytics, like Google Analytics or Search Console, and I pull it into a custom GPT then to get the data. So I was like asking, does it really work for funnels to like?
Yes, it does, my bro. See, the world is changing, right? Because the world is changing, you have to know how to analyze data quickly, right? You must know how to analyze data quickly. And one of the ways you can properly analyze data quickly is by embracing the use of AI. You can use Perplexity, you could use Claude, and you could use, of course, use GPT to actually analyze your data. You could, and yes, it does work, but you must never forget that their conclusions and allusions are not final. You can sit down because you are human, you know what emotions feel like. You can sit and analyze. I don't think this is wrong.
Now
I
that
don't
is
think
fine. Add sugar for now.
this, I think somebody's voice. Okay, so you can sit down with all those AI tools and use them to analyze your data. It does work, but when you have analyzed the data, sit down with it, interpret whatever it is that say, try to understand it, and see what you could. The AI tools I use, they are custom trained to think the way I do. So sometimes I just plug in my data there. It gives me my insights. I interpret those insights personally. I try to understand them. It makes my work very, very faster. Trust me. Especially if you want to do work at a fast pace, you of course need to use AI tools. So that's my take on that. I hope that helps you.
Oh, all right, thanks.
You're welcome, Mark.
All right, guys. Thank you very much, everyone that joined the call. This is it was an amazing section overall. We recorded this section, by the way, and the section will be shared on our YouTube channel, the Growth Camp, also on our community. So if you are not a part of our community, the link to join the community is in the chat box. Please head to the chat box and join the community. Follow us on IG to stay updated on our content and our webinar like this. Also, when we launch the Lone Star Conference 3.0. So with that being said, we are at the end of this meeting, at the end of this call, and then same time next month, we're hosting April edition. Now you don't want to miss the April edition because we'll be finalizing the digital marketing discourse in April, bringing in another awesome speaker before we move on to Q2, where we'll finally heading on to growth marketing in Q2. We want to finalize this edition next month, so you don't want to miss out. Invitation for next month will be going out very soon, anytime next week. So join our community, follow us on IG, not to miss out. Enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone. And just enjoy your weekend, please. Enjoy your weekend. Bye, guys.